everyone. Welcome to Share Your Spark. I'm Kristen Orsini, and today's episode we're showcasing Kitty Kelly, spiritual teacher and healer. She's a teacher of the art of self-inner communication. Love knows how to communicate with itself, and our unlimited self talks to us through our physical and emotional bodies, our imagination, our thoughts, and daily experiences. In this session, there's healing touch and guidance from spirit that aids in healing separation from self. In time heals the sense of separation from spirit and allows the doors of communication to open. So thank you so much, Kitty, for being willing to share your gifts with us. And I just wanted to let everyone know I'm going to mute you, and Kitty is going to share her experiences, share what she's going to share. And when it's time for question and answer, we'll do it old-fashioned style. Raise your hand when you have a question and I'll unmute you, okay? Perfect. So with that, I'm going to introduce Kitty. Thank you again for coming.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So can you tell us a little bit about what this experience is, how you connected with this? You mentioned Emmanuel and what your experience is with this work.
Yeah, well, it's a long story. Sit back, girls, get a cup of tea. Anyway, since I can remember, I've always had a spiritual connection, and my family was very Catholic. So the best way to follow that through for me was to join the convent. So I was in the convent for 13 years, from I was 19 till I was 31, yeah. And it was wonderful. It was perfect for me because it gave me walls that kept my experience limited. So, and there was a lot of meditation time and whatever. So it was a really, really wonderful growth experience for me. But I found as time went on and as I educated myself a lot, doing a lot of theological reading and blah, blah, I'm looking and it's like, well, gee, this theologian says this, and this theologian says that, and they're entirely different concepts. And it was like a light bulb's going off. It's like, well, who decides for me? So it's like, oh my God, it's like, I have to listen to my own inner guidance that resonates with whatever. And then as time went on, the whole construct just got to be too narrow. So I left clear and clean and grateful, and they were wonderful to me, and they thanked me for the years that I had spent with them. So it was not a horrible thing in any way. It was just kind of, I just moved out of it, you know. So, but then I was kind of like a little bit lost. It's like, so a friend of mine who was in the convent with me, really, really brilliant lady. She had left too, and there was a group meeting, and she started talking about the Seth material. I don't know if you've heard of Jane Roberts, who channeled, I didn't even know what channeling was. Anyway, she channels this spirit Seth. And it's only because this woman was so smart. I mean, really, really smart, a college teacher and whatever. She was just, so I just trusted her. So I get the book because, again, I'm searching. And I'm reading through this pretty heavy duty stuff, but excellent. And there's this one line that totally blew my heart out. And it was the first time I ever heard, even going near this, that you are God manifesting as you. It was like, I just knew it was true. It didn't go through my head at all because your head can't hold that concept, especially with the background of thinking of God as separate there, but I just knew it. So I read everything I could get my hands on with Seth. And then the same person told me that she had gone to a reading with Emmanuel. Again, I didn't know what a reading was. You read with a book, and it was like, so God bless my husband. He gets in the car with me, drives me to Connecticut to have a session with Pat Rodegast. She opens the door. First of all, she was the most attractive lady and so welcoming and whatever. So she sits me down and closes her eyes, and she channels differently from what I do. She really kind of like steps aside, and then Emmanuel is there. Blew my socks off. It was so wonderful. It was like going to a therapist who had absolutely no judgment, but who thoroughly knew you. It was the safest, it was the sweetest, it was like, oh my God, oh my God. So thank God she recorded the session. So I came home and I'm memorizing everything. I'm thinking, this is what I want to do. It's like, maybe if I keep doing whatever he said, that, one day I'll be able to have a spirit and the spirit can talk to me. So meanwhile, in this first reading, she was reading my aura and she said there was a lot of green. And she said, green is a healing color. Did you know that? And I was like, no, I didn't. So I come home again from this wonderful session, and I had 2 children at the time, and my 7-year-old was having like growth pains in his legs, and I guess we got home in bedtime, whatever. So I figured, hey, let me try this out on him. I know I'm not telling him anything, so if anything happens with him, I'll be able to believe that I'm doing something. So I put one hand on his hip and the other hand on the end of his foot. And I wasn't there a minute. And he said, oh, mommy, there's a green light going up my leg. I was like, oh, it's like, oh my God, because I didn't mention green. I didn't mention energy. But he described a closed circuit to me. And he gave me that picture from what he was telling me. So again, I just wanted to know, did I have any control over this? So I said, is the light going up or down your leg? And he says, oh, it's going up my leg. So I said, oh, well, I'm going to play a game with you, and I'm going to change the direction of it, but I'm not going to tell you when I do it, and I want to see if you catch it. So I really tried very hard not to move my hands at all. I just changed the picture in my mind. And as soon as I did, he says, oh, now it's going down my leg. It's like, he was wonderful. I really felt sorry for the poor kid. He would be on the bed every night, and he saw spirits, he saw whatever. It just helped me to know that something was going on that was beyond, my head or whatever, and it was something that I'd like to pursue. And yes, I left him alone. By the time he got to be 11 years old, he didn't want to have anything to do with this. And Emmanuel said, it's his time to be a child now. But, he had really served his purpose. So meanwhile, I'm going to see Pat and Emmanuel regularly, and he told me we had done healing in the past together, and I'm thinking, I'm supposed to do this. I have to do this. I'm wetting my pants. I can't even tell you because I don't know what I was doing. So I took a course in shiatsu just to have a method of going up and down somebody's body. So, and I started telling friends that I do this. And so one friend came and she was laying on the mat, and I'm doing my whatever shiatsu up and down. And I started having these feelings, really nasty ones, like total self-loathing. It was so uncomfortable, but I knew it wasn't mine. So then this was the dare that I said, okay, I'm feeling feelings of self-loathing. And she said, well, and then it came out of her. It's like, well, all of that's basically why her body was sick, was because she had these feelings. So Emmanuel had been trying to help me understand that the body is one of the ways that your inner self communicates with you. It's not an accident that you're sick or where you're sick. So part of this whole business was decoding, as you know, what your body is trying to tell you. And not just for me to do it, it's just for me to help the person trust their own knowing of themselves. It's like, as Emmanuel said, when you are present, God is present and all things are possible. But to get present to yourself, and that's why I called what I do teaching inner communication, because you have to know yourself and you have to love yourself. Otherwise, even God, your perception of God will be kind of skewed. He said, excuse me, I forget, tad nervous. Manuel said, the eyes of God are the eyes of you. It's like when you see yourself in a judgmental light or in a nervous, fearful light, you think that you're doing something that you oughtn't to be doing when you're being perceived from outside. But it starts here. This is ground zero. We're ground zero in our own life. So anyway, so I started initially physically, but I would have to say after a while it was like 90% dealing with people's their worries about themselves, their separation from themselves, the agony that causes, that's being mirrored by the stuff in their life. It's like everything, your whole life is about you. My whole life is about me. And everything in it and everybody in it, they're tools to help us learn to love ourselves and to remember who we are and to gradually untie those knots that history has twisted our little guts into. So, and one just interesting story. Meanwhile, I'm doing all this, and I have to tell you, I felt small. I felt inadequate. I didn't kind of know what I was doing, and you need feedback. And a friend of mine had a husband who had an awful accident. He worked in construction, really bad accident, and he was a tough guy, heavy drinking guy, but my friend had gone to Emmanuel sessions with me, and she thought maybe Kitty could help him. And he said yes, which totally knocked my socks off. So I went down the block, wetting my pants. And this poor guy, he was in agony, and I made him lay down because I thought that's how I had to do it. So he grunted and he did whatever. So he's laying down like this, and all of his fingers were broken. His body was a mess. And he started doing this. He started moving his fingers. I mean, and he says, I don't know what you're doing. He said, but the pain was gone and he was able to do this. And then he started channeling. He saw a spirit that was talking to him about, and he wouldn't tell us what the spirit was saying because it was embarrassing to him. Because again, it's like he was very much to himself, but he did tell us that so-and-so was there, and it kind of stayed with him for the rest of his life, that he connected to. And that's how his body, being in such an awful state, that brought the gift to him. And if we could try to remember, wouldn't let us be so scared of what happens to us physically, emotionally, or within your family situation, your work situation. It's like, okay, this is here. What is it doing for me? It's pretty obvious to me what it's doing to me, but it's like, what is it doing for me? What do I hope this is bringing into my life? What gift do I hope that I need? What do I need? What is this pointing to? So it's the inner communication is really important. And then when you allow that, and then you allow yourself to remember that you are also always your unlimited self. And that part of you is available to you if you'll not think it is not so. Sometimes you just have to dare to believe that what you want to be true is true, So that's kind of a long story, but to me, it's gotten to be the funnest thing to do. And talk about inner communication. I chat all day long. It's like I got my best friend inside of me. But what happened is that it expanded from my normal Kitty consciousness. There's also, and it feels very like another part of me, but just the wisest. It's like getting in touch with, what do you call it? Your higher self, I guess that's what some people call it. Your God self, the divine part of you. And because I started doing this chatty conversation-y thing, that's gotten to be just an ordinary part of my everyday existence. And it is amazingly real. And I was, before going on to this, I said, oh, people ask me, do you hear a voice? And while I'm working, I don't. I just know stuff. I just want to say stuff because I'm in the oneness and I'm connected with them, with their physical self and with their higher self and with mine. So it's just kind of there. But when I'm doing my own Kitty meditation, chatty work, I do chat. So, and I was chatting about this. I said, wait a minute, are you a different voice? Let me listen. And then I'll hear this other part of the conversation. And it's like, well, is the tone the same? Is the vibration the same? No, it's a teeny bit different. So I'm inside myself doing, but I think that's who we are. I think that we are multifaceted. And when we just erase the edges of who we think we are and just let it expand a little bit, you know, gradually, so that it's not overwhelming. It's organic. You just get get to grow. You know, like a bud, you know, that just naturally opens. It's natural to us. And Emmanuel says we're all going to make it. He said, because all of us are divine consciousness manifesting as us. So how could it be that anybody doesn't make it home? And that made me feel really good. You know, that old concept of the saved and the damned, you know, being lined up. It was like, you know, that never sat well with me. So anyway, so opening this to conversations, you can either ask me about something that's puzzling you, and if any guidance comes through, I'll certainly share it, or anything else you want to know about me and what I do. So just let her rip.
So before we open up for questions, I just want to ask what your experience is of Emmanuel. Is Emmanuel just your higher self? Is Emmanuel a consciousness that has come to help you? How do you perceive who Emmanuel is?
Yeah, he doesn't feel like my higher self. He feels like a really, really wonderful friend. And apparently we had done things for many lifetimes together. He said even before we helped colonize the earth. You know, I mean, he brought me to places. I mean, just I couldn't relate to it in my kitty consciousness, but because everything else he said to me resonated so right about me and what I needed and the way I was thinking about myself, that was not very helpful. I just trust it. So yeah, he just feels like a wonderful, wise guide at this point. And Pat she was channeling for years. So her friend, Judith Stanton, and she compiled 3 books, Emmanuel 1, 2, and 3, of questions and answers that people had asked in sessions. And so I read one of those every night before I go to bed, you know, just a little snippet of it. And it's amazing. I've read them multiple times, but there'll be times when I swear to God, I have never heard that sentence before, and it just goes doing, you know, it's just meant for me. So yeah, I put down my mystery right as I'm getting asleep, you know, and so the last thing on my mind or in my consciousness is something sweet like that. He's so sweet. Emmanuel was so non-judgmental and very connected to the human vibration. There are some channelers who are, even though they're accurate and mind-blowing, they seem to approach you in your head more. Emmanuel goes right here. It's just, there's a sweetness to him. So I didn't have to defend against him or anything that he was telling me, you know, even though I would do it anyway. Like for instance, one time he said to me, "You have yet to trust your own integrity." Now, what did I hear? That I wasn't trusting. I wasn't hearing that I have integrity. He's telling me I have integrity and I should trust it. I'm hearing, yes, he's right. I don't trust. I've got to trust us. So it's like we have these filters. And until you can see that you have the filter and you do that to yourself, you can't stop. So knowing yourself is, again, it's the ground zero. And knowing yourself and perceiving yourself through non-judgmental eyes, that's the key. And when you feel a constriction, because we were so brilliant when we created this physicality, you can feel it when there's judgment or when there's fear. You feel it emotionally, you feel it physically, and that's as clear as it can be that I'm hearing something that's not true or something that needs to be addressed, or I wouldn't be having this reaction. But you have to be present in your own awareness to know that you're having a reaction, that when this phone call comes from this lady, that you go like this. And if you're aware of it, you can say, okay, let me take a minute. What am I afraid in all of this? What am I afraid she'll say? What am I afraid that I'll do? Why do I think I'm at risk? So it's like being your own therapist. And then once you know it, then you stand in your God shoes, because you're not just a human. And you say, oh, I want a resolution for this. I want guidance with this. I want this healed. So it's like your own physician, all of you. Your human you is the Freud's point in this experience, and your divine self just comes, right behind.
Mm, beautiful. Yeah, there was someone on, if you've ever heard of Mind Valley, that's a compilation of different presenters in the metaphysical arts and things. And that's one of the teachers from there said that your spirit is not in your body, that your body is in your spirit.
Yeah.
It's opposite, we're spirit, we can remember that human parts that have been brainwashed, that we're not good enough, that there's something wrong with us, that conditioning that has come from this realm just falls away when you can lean back into and remember that spirit and connect to it. So beautiful. And so Emmanuel, I know the word, the suffix el is angelic, right? Is Emmanuel an angel?
Well, he said we're all angels. We're all spirits that are, embodied for this short time. So he was human for a while, but now he's home and he's teaching that way. So
Thank you. So this is my first experience with Emmanuel. You're saying there's other teachings, and I see some people nodding. Emmanuel book 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So maybe we can eventually put that in the chat box somehow, so that people, if they haven't experienced those books, maybe find those as well.
And also, I have a Facebook page. The only thing I do with it is every day I put just a little blurb from Emmanuel. So I forgot to give you my contacts. I think it's facebook.com/Driscoll80, I think. But I think probably if you do Kitty Kelly on Facebook, you'll find me. And I don't even think you have to friend me. I mean, if you will, I absolutely will friend your girls. But it's just lovely to share that. It's, he's the best. Yeah.
And just so you know, when we do make this into a recording and put it on the YouTube channel, my husband is amazing at the post-production stuff. He's going to put your information at the end. So if anybody doesn't get it for today, so you'll be able to be contacted.
Okay. And I forgot to give you all that, my phone number and all. I just was so concentrated on what I was saying about,
Yeah, beautifully. We'll make sure we get all the logistics in place and make sure everyone that wants to connect with Kitty can. So,
thank you for doing this. Right, guys? Can you, really, we need a you. Yeah.
We need all of us, right? And I'm called to gather. That's one of my purposes, is to gather and hold space. And so when we all stand in our higher self and step away from what we think, there are many, many years where I didn't feel like I was enough, that these messages would come through saying, oh, please do this. Oh, who am I to, right? And it is when you say yes, right, with the help of other people. Like I know I've had readings with Mary Elizabeth that have helped me to confirm, like, oh yes, thank you, please keep doing that work. And her guide saying, keep going. And look what it brings, like community, lifting each other up. So, and thank you. And now you're here.
Yeah, it's something you can do, and you sing your song, and
people will join you. So if anybody has a question or would like to ask Kitty a question, so I'm going to start with, hands are popping up. So I'm going to start with Joe. I'll unmute you, and then we'll go to June. You're on, Joe.
Thank you. Kitty,
yes.
Have you ever read The Course of Miracles?
Actually, I didn't read the Fat book. I read there was an abridged version of it, but years ago I did, yes.
It's very much of what you're saying.
Yes, there is a lot of gentleness in it. When I was reading through parts of it, every now and then I would feel a little glitch because it felt a little judgy to me, although knowing her, I'm sure that that's not how she meant it. It was sometimes it's just the way things are worded.
It's a little difficult.
But yeah, absolutely, valuable, beautiful, expansive work, really expansive. Yeah.
By knowing that, it was very easy for me to understand what you were speaking about, and especially when you talked about your higher self.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have to release, and you're excellent.
There, it's just, it's so hard to realize it. It's just a matter of owning it, not thinking, well, when I get myself together and I do it really right and I pray enough or whatever, then I'll open up, and it's it's there now. There are no hoops that you have to jump. It's a matter of saying yes, and then letting your humanness absorb that at an absorbable rate. We're not made like a balloon. You know, if you go too fast, you know, it'll break. But if a little warm breath and the next little warm breath, and that's kind of how it is. There's no rush because we already are who we hope to be if we do it right. So, yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Joe. Unmute June, if I can. I don't know, June, I'm having trouble unmuting you. Can you unmute yourself?
Is that good?
We gotcha.
Hi, Kitty. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet
It's
you.
so funny because my husband is in the class with Joe with Course in Miracles. So I don't go to the class, but I hear all the stuff all the time. So I understood it. But my husband's writing me notes to tell you, if you don't,
That is so
he's
cool.
such a character, that his relationship with Emmanuel is that he's the guiding master for humans. I don't know if you ever heard that before. That's his
No,
take on it.
it certainly fits. The description absolutely fits. Yeah.
And it's funny what you said, because I've been involved learning about this spirituality and trying to get to where I want to be. I'm not sure where that is, but I feel like I know so many mediums and psychics and people like you, spiritual. And I'm sitting here going, okay, I believe in this stuff. Like, how come I don't get any messages? So is there something that you can say, or I don't know, some kind of strategy? Because I just feel like I'm just missing, like they're coming like this, because I know they do, but it's not coming in to me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's like it is truly different for everybody. For a lot of people, the guidance feels like it comes like Pat. Emmanuel feels separate to her, although he's told her he's part of her consciousness. But Pat, as a human, wouldn't be able to, she had to have it come to her that way. So that's one way. Some people, but Pat is listening while Emmanuel's talking. There are some people who totally buzz out. They totally go into trance and they're just kind of not there. So everybody, and other people, their physical body seems to be taken over, and so yours will be yours. So for me, and I was a little disappointed to find that I'm only going to be Kitty. It's like, please, I was waiting for, whatever. And that was one of the greatest gifts. I mean, I was doing breathing, I was doing meditating, I was trying everything to exactly what you're looking for a spirit to stand in front of me. And I would have done whatever they said, whatever, but it would have been all theirs. I would have been a servant, in a sense, to what I considered a greater wisdom, and gladly, absolutely gladly. It never occurred to me that what I was looking for was within me. But Emmanuel he was like a dog with a bone. He just stayed with it. And he said, it's true for everyone. So that's why he suggested me using my imagination, or just paying attention to myself, and then starting that inner dialogue. Like when you read something from the Course of Miracles, or if you get the Emmanuel books and you read, and something strikes you, sit and talk to yourself about it, but leave the door open for a dialogue. In the beginning, I really thought that I was writing both parts of the dialogue in my head, but my intent was to allow spirit, for the greater wisdom. So we have to trick ourselves sometimes, because we get really rigid in our head. So I tricked myself into thinking, okay, I'm dialoguing with my higher self or my greater wisdom. Even though it felt like Kitty to me, both sides. It's only lately that I've noticed it's just another aspect of me, and they're both me. But in the beginning, that was that. But I got to tell you, every now and then I would be writing the dialogue, like as if you were a playwright and you're writing a dialogue and you know that one of the characters is the best person that ever lived or whatever. You could not write shitty dialogue for that person because it would be inappropriate. So even in my head, I couldn't allow there to be judgment or fault finding or blaming or anything except love, because I wanted to contact absolute love. So just using that tool that, okay, oh, this happens every now and then. I get a boing. I remembered when I would get nervous, it would be obvious. Emmanuel say, well, fear is speaking, so it's speaking, so it has a message. So listen. So in my head, I'd say, okay, what are you saying to me? And I would bravely let myself know the things that I was nervous about, even if it was that I'll never be able to contact spirit. I'm just going to be a second-class spiritual citizen for the rest of my life. And then when fear had emptied its whole bag, and then Emmanuel suggests, all right, now say, and what would love say? And as soon as I was in my own psyche, standing in that position, I said wonderful things to myself, and I believed them. So sometimes you have to use inner devices, whatever works with you. But to me, that works. It's like when I was nervous or anxious or whatever, okay, it's obvious that that's what illusion is saying to me, what's forgetting is saying to me. Now, what is absolute love and wisdom? It just lets you know, first of all, there are two things going on always. And then you get to choose. It's like, I'm sure as hell not going to choose that guy. So I would align myself to the part that was reminding me of how safe I was, and that this is a tool, and that whatever it was saying in regard to this. So you just have to use your own stuff. And then after a while, you start to trust yourself because you trust your intent. You may not trust your methods because you're just starting out, whatever, but you always can trust your intent. Your intent really is to connect your heart with the greater loving, with the oneness, with God, if that's, what you would call this great divine consciousness that we walk in. So, if you want it, honey, it's yours. Just don't judge your experience as being less than somebody else's because it's yours. Just like a marriage or being a parent or being a student. It's like our own individual experience is the only one we came to have. You came to have yours, and nobody else can have it. And there are gradations in how God is, that a part of God is wonderful, and then there's, not so good, and then there's you. So it's like, it's all wonderful. You just have to own the expression that's wonderful as you. And I know that it sounds wonderful, but it is so hard to believe that you're wonderful. And you just have to just say, I don't feel it, but I choose to believe it. And when fear comes, you can say the same thing. I feel the fear, but I don't choose to believe it. And the choice is always yours. Choice is a really, really important tool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Thank you. Thank you, Kitty.
Yeah, you're going to have such fun with yourself. Oh, cool. It's all written in you. You're your own curriculum. All the stuff that you came to deal with is in you. It's the things that get your attention, whether it's a joy or a fear or a pain or a delight, you're loaded. You are loaded.
You're awesome, June.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Kitty.
My pleasure.
So I saw Lisa and then Margaret. So Lisa, I'm going to unmute you and then we'll go to Margaret. Or Lisa, can you unmute yourself? Sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't.
I'll do
It's
that.
next to
Can you
where-
hear me?
Yes.
We hear you. Yes.
Okay, good. Well, Kitty, thank you. Thank you for introducing yourself, and sounds very exciting. So I'm personally probably not that far, but I have a question. So You talked about people coming to you and you kind of lay them down and things like that. But do you also offer virtual sessions? And if so, how would that look like? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
what would we be doing?
Okay. Actually, since COVID-19, it's like for the most part, people would come to my home and I would run energy physically. And first of all, and it's happened also in a virtual session, everybody comes for a reason. So you sit down and you just blather your stuff, whatever it is, and then you're finished talking, da da da, and then I can also tell. I just have a feeling when there's something that wants to be said to you, or there. So on a phone session, as I would do in a physical session, you can record it on your whatever. I'm getting a little better at this. In the beginning, I used to walk around with a tape recorder. It wasn't easy. And because the reason I suggest taping is you're so nervous when something's going on, or you may hear a really important sentence and you so want to remember it that 2 or 3 sentences go on and whatever, because you're afraid you might lose this little thing. So you're welcome to record the sessions, or I do, and I mail them to you. But as far as the physical touching is concerned, Emmanuel said that we are more than we think we are. So that limitation isn't there in the real world. So if in my meditation state, whatever you want to call it, well, there is no time and distance. So when I say I go to you, that even sounds like I'm covering a distance. But yeah, it's not necessary that you physically be here. It's the same thing. There's just no barrier or no limitation unless there is in your head. And I've kind of decided not to accept that. So like when I pray and send healing to somebody, as we all do, they could be on the other side of the globe. And it would be awful if air and space prevents love from reaching whoever it is that you want them to reach. So we just, again, have to own that we are unlimited. That's what the stretch is, that when you send out a good thought, it's not a nothing. Even in these days of COVID-19, whatever, we all have to be careful the care package that we send out. If the whole care package is, oh my God, I want this one and that one, all of which is true, these people are in dire circumstance, but that does not soothe a frightened child. So you send out support, love, promise of help, assurance that this is purposeful, it's not punitive, and the hope that everyone gets out of it, whatever it was in their life, to whatever extent. It is purposeful for each one of us in a different way. And I was thinking that this morning that for some of us, it's working out really well. I have time with my kids. I don't have to go to that job that I really hate. And I have enough money that we're okay. Oh, but I shouldn't be feeling good about this because here's this poor lady who has 4 kids and no jobs. And what we have to do is allow for, because we're expansive creatures, you can allow for there to be empathy, and again, sending that healing energy to this person. At the same time, we're dancing and tap dancing over here because our present day life is a beautiful one. And it's like spitting in the face of God and good fortune when you don't allow yourself to experience it. Joy in itself is a healer.
Oh, absolutely.
And fullness, so to appreciate the joy and the fullness that's in your life doesn't mean that you're laughing or not compassionate towards somebody else. Those awful rigid lines, you're either this or you're that. Nope, I'm both. I'm really happy I'm dancing over here, and my heart breaks for you, and I hope things get better. We gotta hope that's all.
And feelings are never right or wrong. They're just there, right? So
yeah, and to own them, and again, to decode them, because sometimes feelings are there as teachers. Well, always, besides being experiences. But yeah, yeah. Isn't it amazing? There's nothing wrong. Could you imagine how freeing? When I was in my old rigid Catholic days, if someone said what I believe now, that there is nothing wrong and there is no such a thing as sin, I think, oh, could my grandmother say, oh, well, all go to hell in a handbasket. You do whatever you want. Assuming that humans would do the most awful things if they were doing what they wanted. We so don't trust our basic good nature. Yeah. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. My pleasure. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, we're going to Margaret.
Hi. Hi, Kitty. Thank you so much for
Hi.
us. I was really intent upon your conversation with June because I really identify with you, June, because I too am surrounded with what I call gifted humans, or, you know, spirit, humans within spirits. And I have had the pleasure and the honor of founding a Center of Light, which teaches metaphysical spirituality. And there's a gentleman, Jim, who, much like yourself, Kitty, communicates with spirit. And he too, as you say, it's whatever the spirit is for you. There's no, whether you call it God, divine, the universe, the truth with a capital T, angels, you know, masters, etc. It's all different for everyone. But what he has really put me at ease with also, as you are doing, is that it is all perfect. It's all perfect.
Yeah.
It's just that our humanness and our boundaries and those tapes and messages in our minds, our thoughts, tell us the opposite. And those are the boundaries that we need to, you know, break down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And because as you, he, for at least for the last 30 years or so, has been, you know, corresponding with spirit in different ways. And he teaches different classes and has different services and things like that. And it's just amazing. And I, you know, I'm in one of the classes and I feel like, how come I'm always in pre-kindergarten and everyone's in graduate school? I don't know why I'm not getting any higher up there.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. And it's a heartbreak because the yearning to connect with spirit is so deep, you know. But when you were talking about, you know, seeing yourself, you know, as we all do with these rulers, comparing ourselves to who's got the greater gift, and, you know, here I am, a schlep down here with nothing. It reminds me of some of these lovely kids in junior high or high school who think that they're not as pretty as this girl and whatever, and then 50 years later, you look back at your high school yearbook and you say, oh, you beauty.
Right.
Oh my goodness, how come you didn't know that? Because you were culturally instructed, you know, by magazines, by your friends or whatever, and you bought what was there. And you were meant to, because you're meant to go through this process of recuperating who you really are, remembering who you really are, and that there's no gradations.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that you have a gift, you know, that expression, noblesse oblige, you know, if you got a gift, you got to do something with it. And that's going to make you wet your pants. What do I have to open it? It's for you. It's not so that you can go rescue somebody else, since everything is perfect, as you said, and everybody is getting exactly what they need. Your gifts,
Yes.
your interaction with spirit is for you. If
Yes.
you want to sing your song with somebody else, if that's what you're meant to do, like Kristen, then that's what we'll do. But it doesn't denigrate the fact that you're on a par, because in the oneness, there's no high or low. You know, if you're God manifesting as you, how could there be something the matter with the particular way in which you're constructed, or you feel, or you look, or you react.
Because only in the last, I would say, year of my spiritual path have I really grasped the concept that I am God. I am.
Yeah.
We are. And when I first heard that, I was like, God, if you ever said that out loud to somebody, they would think,
arrogant.
Smokes, sacrilegious, burn her at the stake.
Exactly. Yeah.
And but now it's become so much more comfortable.
Yeah.
And even though we know that there are levels in our higher self, and there are levels, but there is no time and space. So we are God and God are we, and we are all one. And our brain is not, I don't believe, meant to understand that cognitively.
Yeah. Limited.
I'm such a cognitive person that I'm always trying to figure these things out. And that's what I need to put on the back shelf.
Yeah.
Two things that help me most, and you've mentioned them also, is the fact that we are perfect. Also love, because I read your posts a lot in Facebook, and there's always love. Love just shines out above whatever message there is, that is the answer. And also, I've been told, trust the process, because I don't know what the process is. I didn't write the book. I'm just, I follow along. I have gratitude for having people in my life like you, like Mary Elizabeth, like Jim, like so many others who are such strength.
And like yourself, who's a seeker, look at you. Look at you. Look at what you want. Yeah. Put yourself
I'm
on
a seeker, all right.
But you can only seek something that you know. You can't be looking and yearning for something that you have no idea about, because where would the yearning come from?
True.
So your very seeking is you remembering. You remember what it was like at home.
Remembering, yes.
And it's like it felt so arrogant when we first would hear that you are God. But since that's all there is, that's all anybody is. So it's not like you're putting yourself above somebody else. And like you said, the gradations in humanity, it's just how we're built. But you wouldn't look at a kindergartner and think of him as lesser and insufficient to you who have this college. It's like, good for you. You're doing your very best. You're learning so much. It's, we just see it through, again, eyes that have been trained a certain way, but we can untrain our eyes, and we can have our eyes look at things the way love would look at them. Yeah, because that's who we are.
Yes, we are. Thank you so very much for your
pleasure. I'm so glad to see your face. I see every now and then.
Oh, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Margaret. So I don't know if you saw, my friend Elvia, a student and friend of mine, Elvia, came for as long as she could, and she had to go. And she said she has to go, but if you think you have an answer to my question, the other day I went for a bike ride. I know I left my bike in the car, but for some strange reason, it was not there. I came to the conclusion that the someone who stole it needed it. I thanked the person who has the bike in my mind, which I used for many, many years. Now I'm on a mission to buy a new one, Elvia. So Elvia brought that question. She had to leave. Bye, Elvia. But if you have any insights.
Well,
she left that before she left. So
yeah, it feels like she resolved it in the L way. That was how she chose to see it. And that says a lot about her and about who she is. And so out of this, she will have a brand new bike, and she will love herself more for how she chooses to perceive something that could have been looked in several ways, a lot of which are not very pleasant, that I could be taken advantage of, that I'm not safe, that whatever. It's like, oh, put wings on that bike and I'll get myself a new one, and look for her to see how she thinks and how she reacts. So she's the prize she got out of that. Forget the brand new bike. Yeah.
Beautifully put. Yeah, it's different when you look at things through the eyes of love completely. So, and welcome, Audrey and Barbara. I know you don't have your camera on. I just wanted to welcome you officially and say, if you'd like to put your camera on, Barbara, please feel free. And if anybody else has a question, just raise your hand for Kitty and I'll unmute you. So we're going to, hi, Barbara. Yay, there she is. And Audrey, did you have a question?
Um, I have a quick-
I thought you
No,
raised your hand, I'm sorry.
no,
Hi,
I was just saying hi. I was in the shower. I forgot about the meeting.
Well, we're glad you're clean, Audrey.
In the middle of it, I said, "Oh my God, I forgot 1 o'clock." It's been a crazy day. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just this weekend I felt like my father around me. I don't know if she has any feelings about that, but we have this little beach shack on an island, and he was so happy we got it, although it's falling apart. The shower broke down. The bathroom is a disaster. The boardwalks are falling apart. But I just felt him. He was so happy we got this little place. And he passed away, but I just don't know if he knows how happy we are there. And I have 2 new granddaughters he never met. I don't know. I don't know if Kitty.
Yeah, well, the first feeling I got was, of course it was. Absolutely trust it. Absolutely trust it. And that's again when I say we can choose. You can choose to doubt it, or there's just a nice, warm, daddy feeling that you had. You did that belongs to him and to nobody else. And the fact that it popped into your consciousness, it just did. And so accept it as a hello. And all you have to do is say hello back. You don't have to do anything about it. You can just love him and bless him and know there's no real separation. So he's with you at the same time as he's doing his own expansive whatever, because he's not limited where he is. But his human self loved that place, and it's a touchstone therefore. So yeah, don't doubt it. Never doubt what you hope is true. Because
Okay.
that's where
I was saying different. I was saying, yeah. Okay. I was saying little phrases that he would say to my husband.
yeah.
He goes, "Where'd you hear that?" I says, "I don't know. My father used to say that. It's, crazy things." He used to have all of us kids working on these projects that men should be working on, but we were hauling, engines and oars and helping with the boats and everything. But he made it fun and,
Yeah.
good memories.
So just chat with them again, just like I was speaking about speaking to God or your higher self or whatever. Chat with your dad and allow. It's going to feel like you're making up the conversation, but that's just a device. We need to use a device. We need to trick ourselves into allowing for that. So just be you. Say, "Hi, Dad. I was telling whatever. Thanks. You made us laugh so much." And allow yourself, because you knew him, allow yourself in your consciousness to have him say hi, and to whatever occurs to you, whatever occurs to you. That's all I can. Just be playful with it, because I think because again, some people who channel, it's so off the deep end that we keep thinking, if I'm going to have contact with my father, I'm going to see him, but maybe you'll be able to see through him, that we're also been trained by movies, but I'll know it's my father. And sometimes people do. They experience whatever way they experience, but your heart was touched. That's the place. If your heart is touched,
Yeah.
that's where God speaks to us. Yeah. And that's where those who passed in spirit, it's like, that's the place to trust. Your head is not the bad guy. We've been taught, don't trust your mind, and now it's like, just give it the job it can do, because we scare our minds to death when we say, well, if I make this decision, how will I know it's the right one? So we're requiring of our mind that it see into the future, which it can't do, in order for us to be safe. So it panics. So let's give it a job it can do. Say, okay, mind, I put you in the service of my heart.
Give it a job. We can do.
Remind me of what my heart is saying, and your head will be happy. It it'll find ways to bring into your life whatever your heart wants. That's its job. But yeah, just trust your heart. Yeah. So Daddy-O came to visit.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was great.
Good.
Glad you made it, Audrey. Thank you. Thank you. So does anybody else have a question for Kitty, Emmanuel? Could be related to anything, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe
Barbara, are you raising your hand? Barbara, did you have a question? Okay, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Actually, I was just going to have a comment, not a question. First, I wanted to thank you. I thought it was very interesting. I didn't know what today's topic was, but I was glad that I joined in. But with regards to who was just speaking and talking about her dad, I live in the house that I grew up in, so I remember my parents often. And just the other day, I shared a photo that I'm going to share of my dad. If you can, I don't want to have the glare. If you can see, he's at the driving range. And this was, his favorite pastime that he didn't get to do very often because he worked really, 6 to 7 days a week, long hours. But so often I just think of him, and it makes me wonder, after hearing you, if when I think of him, if maybe it's because, he wanted to remind me of something, because I have also,
Yeah.
I also have quoted, my dad much more than I ever would have expected to.
Yeah. So absolutely, it's a two-way communication, if you'll allow it, and not expect it to be the way somebody else has ever described seeing a spirit or feeling a spirit. He's not a spirit to you, he's your dad. So there isn't the distance that there might be from or whatever. He's your dad, and there's love there. So the love connection is always there, and love is forever. So just when you sense him, when you think of him, it's a mutual hi. It's just hi, how you doing? I love you. Thank you for loving me. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like people ask sometimes, why don't I downsize? Why don't I move? And it's like, I'm surrounded. I have my mom's love, my dad's love right in this house. Why would I go anywhere?
Yeah.
It's perfect.
If you're happy.
Thank you so much for helping me to recognize that
You're
more
welcome.
and more.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Barbara. And I see Lisa's got her hand raised again. Go ahead.
I unmute myself. Can you hear me? So obviously, Kitty, you have connection to people who have died, right?
Yeah.
So is there a way to kind of get into a dialogue with these people through you, or is
Through
it
yourself.
possible through myself?
Through yourself, yeah. If you want to speak to someone, obviously there are people who are gifted, and if that is in any way helpful, then access that. But to think that someone that you love can only address you through somebody else, that's a door in your side that's closed. It's not a requirement, that you have to have a certain gift and a certain third eye open. Those are hoops that we don't all have to jump over. So just your desire to communicate. Sometimes it's talking. Sometimes, when you're with somebody that you love and you're on the couch and you're just snuggling together and nobody's saying anything, that's communication.
Mm-hmm.
So just, again, erase the hard edges.
Right. Yeah, I see that. And I practice that actually. But I'm wondering, maybe there are some things that are unsolved sometimes, and a person left the physical body and is no longer there. So is it possible to maybe clarify something,
You mean something is unresolved for them or something is unresolved for you?
Well, maybe both ways.
Yeah.
Maybe either way.
once you're home, you're home. In this illusion, the resolving is not as important as you would think. You just see things way clearly when you're home. And it's like, oh yeah, that's where I was then. That was that step in my education, in my journey of remembering. And if within you think there is something that is unresolved with whoever it is that you wanted to contact, that means there's something in you. There's a inside of you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
again, let you go within yourself and get really clear with you before you even go near. I mean, I always ask I call them the guys. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it just sounds like friends. Help me not hide me from me is often what I have to. Don't, because it's, you hide from your own judgment, from your own squishy feelings around something. So if you can promise you and keep your promise as best you can that you will not judge whatever you find that you did, because sometimes we'll look back and the fact is we did some crappy stuff and that's just how it was. And so you can say, well, I did do that. I did feel that. I did want that. And it was all nasty. But that's where I was then. I would not, what did it teach me?
Part of
It
the
taught me not to want to do that again. So it was a very useful thing. If I never want to hit my grandma over the head with a pot again, and that's what I learned from whatever this is, then it's in my backpack of who I am. I don't like it when I do those things. I don't like it when I say those things and when I allow those thoughts. Oh, so maybe who I am is the person who's not comfortable with this. Oh, thank you, terrible feelings and whatever, for teaching me who I am. It's like, you just got to trick yourself, but you have to take a stance that on the assumption that you're good and your intent is that you want loving truth, and you won't be led astray. Your own thoughts will be some of the best healers you ever had, because you're the one that has to release you, not somebody that you think you hurt. As you know, somebody could say, oh, it's okay, it's all right that you did that to me, I forgive you, but inside we're still in a knot because we can't let it be all right with ourselves. That it's like a kindergartner, blaming himself because he didn't know all of the sight words at that time. It's like, you are where you are when you're there. And if you've grown past it so that you're the person who would not choose deliberately to hurt someone in that manner again, then you've gotten everything you need to get out of it. And let it be all right. Say yes to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. And Jojo, you're up.
To add to Lisa and Audrey, and I'm sorry, I forgot the other lady's name.
I do too. I'm so glad I'm not the only one.
No, I'm bad with names. We're talking about like you feeling your parents or someone that passed. My mom just recently passed away at 99,
Wow.
and my father before that. And as Kristen knows, I took care of grandma too. So I had a lot of family ties. Now, I don't know it's because if I believe so much or because I feel I'm spiritual. I can't even say it's that. But I've moved. I'm not only moved away from the house, I moved to a different state. So I have no connection. There's nothing in there that's bringing me any kind of vibes. And I shared everything with my mother to her last breath. And her whole life being Italian was food.
Yeah.
And no matter what, it would constantly be, did you eat? What did you eat? Oh, that's good, whatever. So I have a picture of her on my refrigerator. And now that we're confided to being in the house and everything, I'm cooking 3 meals a day. And I worked until just before I moved here. So, and everything is fine. And I would actually say, Mom, look what I made. And I literally hear her. I hear her. And you can add a little peppers to that. It's just this feeling that comes in.
You got it.
The other night it was hilarious, and I just have to share it. I'm like, now what am I going to make for dinner? And I said, I've had it now. I don't want to play house anymore. I don't want to do this. You understand? And I can literally hear her laughing and say, and saying, commenting on it. So is it my imagination, or is it because I want to believe so much?
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I could share.
That's wonderful. And don't break your own heart by saying, is it imagination? It's real. You were feeling it. You weren't a disconnected imaginary picture. It was visceral. And not only that, when you know someone as well as you know your mom, people have a tone or a vibration. You could go into the house and know she was there even if she didn't say hello. And you go into an empty house, it's empty, even though nobody's speaking to you. There's just a sensing we have. So trust it. Just, yeah. It was contact. It was contact on both sides. Good for you. Keep talking to her. Keep talking to her. And that's the thing. We keep thinking it has to get very high and mighty. Oh, now that you're in heaven, tell me. And it's like, no, their connection with you is with your human self. So it's what you wear. You think you look good in that?
I actually heard her.
Yes.
You don't have to slip on.
That's wonderful. Enjoy it. Trust it. Trust it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jojo. And Kitty. Hi, Kitty.
Hi.
Yeah. So if I could share a little too, like when my dad passed about 6 years ago now, and same thing. It's not so much I hear, and I always say it's like different, like in education, we honor different, maybe not in the public schools necessarily, but we honor that all people learn differently, right? Some people learn through hearing, some by seeing, some through narrative. That's been my experience too, is, some people kind of hear their loved ones, some feel like you're saying, some just get like a tap on the shoulder and their eye is guided to a sign that says something. And, I find things that, come through with my dad all the time. Like, there's ebbs and flows, but there are times when I feel him more. And exactly like Katie's saying, as soon as I stopped questioning it and saying, is that really me? Just for the fun of it, let me just step away from it and say, okay, it's true, and let it be. I actually noticed when my thoughts come up that I would have just brushed aside. I was like, oh, that was directly related to what I was just feeling. It was like an answer. Like, look at that story that happened in your life, and that's why you're feeling that way. Yeah. And it's amazing how our relationship with our loved ones pass when they go home, as you say, I say that too, that it's just different. It's just finding your way of communicating them and trusting that is inherent. Like you said, it's just factory install. We have that ability if we can just get out of the way of our heads.
It's just to dare to trust it, but that's a choice. And what is it? Emmanuel has said to choose to trust in spite of feelings of doubt is enough. Because I thought if I really trusted, I would be feeling this trust, Meanwhile, I'm like, So to choose to trust, it's a choice. It's a matter of will, because your feelings come and go. But a choice is a solid something that I'm coming down on this side. So.
You just reminded me of a Rumi poem. Somebody gave me this postcard years ago. This candle wax, and it's my it's my favorite picture of all time. I just really love it.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
People dancing in a circle together. I feel like there's someone healing in the background. I feel like this is where we are whole. But on the back, he wrote a Rumi quote: "The power of conscious choice is your true life's first mother."
There you go. Excellent. Nice.
Keep it with me all the time. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you. Does anybody have a question they'd like answered even more personally? Can people ask questions about oh, I've got this thing in my elbow, or stuff like that? Is that something you could answer?
Whatever they're comfortable with, and if nothing comes to me, then that's how it is.
Okay. Anybody have questions through that framework? Hey, Mildred, let me try to unmute you. You might have to unmute yourself, love.
Okay, now? Okay. It's funny, I wasn't going to say anything. I'm enjoying this tremendously. I haven't been able to go to any type of meetings like this. You know, it's been a long time, and I feel like I'm being brought back through
Yeah.
a friend. I connected through Kristen again, and I did chair yoga, but what I love was the meditation, and she gave distant healing Reiki. But I've been having a little problem, and I wasn't going to say anything, but it's funny because I was thinking of it this morning. I have on the bottom of my foot, it's between the heel and my ankle, there's a lump, and I've had it now since the fall maybe. And I haven't been able to go and see a doctor because I was involved with helping my daughter. She got relapsed with cancer, so I had to go into Manhattan with her for like 6 weeks, and I didn't come back until January, and then I came back, and then the COVID came about, and so haven't been able to check. And also, I had my gallbladder taken out two years ago, and in that same area, I'm feeling something there. And so I've been praying about it. I've been giving myself Reiki and stuff, but I just feel something is not right.
Yeah. Well, fear does that to us too. You get scared. You know, let's face it, our physical body that's the ground under our feet. And when that gets pulled out from under you, it's like, you know, you just get frightened. So, you know, just to let yourself be aware of that. And that's that first inkling that fear usually is one of the first things in the door. Now, pain might precede it, but fear is not far behind. And then call on the guidance that's always around you, whether you consider it as angels or I call them the guides. And it's like, okay, I'm real scared about this. All right, help me to see this in a way that's going to be helpful to me. And when you're seeing the reason for something or looking at it from a spiritual perspective, that never, ever means that you, in order to show how much faith you have, that you have to neglect yourself physically. You make a commitment. I'm going to do everything I can for me physically, go to the doctors, whether it's medicine, diet, whatever. I will do all of that like a sacrament. I'll just for love of me, I'll take care of my body. Now, I also know that my body is how my higher self guides me. It's not smacking me in the face and saying, hey, stupid, look what you did, and now look at the mess you're in. There must be something I want so badly that I'm getting this little nudge here. And if you want to understand what's going on in your body, you also have to make the leap that your body is not disconnected from your consciousness. So literally, again, with your intent of, if this is a message, I want to get it because it's for me. There's something I want in this. There's something that it will guide me toward asking. And remember, you're a creator. So once you know enough to ask for something, it's already on its way. So you go into your heel and feet. And what do feet mean? And moving on this earth, moving forward, just standing safely on this earth. It's like, see what scaredy things it pulls out of the cupboard, you know, what things have been hiding that you would love not to be there. And with the discomfort in the gallbladder, it's like, okay, it's like, all right, what is this? Because where it is in your body is very significant too, only because it helps you zone in on what it is that it's come to help you with. So you sit with your gallbladdery thing, and from whatever limited knowledge you have, that, you know, gallbladders, I think they're filters of toxins and stuff. And so it's like, oh, are there any toxins in my life? Things that are really not good for me. It could be a thought, it could be a way of behaving, it could be a person. And say, oh, I would like to do that. I would like to rid myself of anything that's toxic, that diminishes my joy in my life. And, you know, so I'm just riffing here, you know, in my kiddie self. But what I'm saying is you have the capacity to do that also, because you've asked for it. And love would never deny itself. Love wouldn't do that to itself. Love wouldn't punish itself. And you are love manifesting as you. So just assume that that greater loving, of which you are an extension, is always there, is always guiding you, is never punitive, never, it's like a, you know, the GPS system when you go someplace and they say, all right, 300 feet, turn left, and you don't know what 300 feet is, and you go past, and they say, all right, recalculating, and will endlessly keep at it until you get where you're supposed to go. We have an inner GPS system, and because of your intent, don't think that you'll get lost or you'll misinterpret or you'll think the wrong thing. Trust your intent to be all that you need to bring you whatever it is in your life. And then literally you choose to trust. Choose to trust what goes on with the doctors, with the thoughts, with the whatever. It's part of your inner journey. There's always something magnificent going on when we have a physical upsetment or a huge emotional upsetment. There's big learning going on. Not because you've been so stupid, it's because you were brave enough as a soul to choose to forget and then take this journey of remembering and coming to this point where you're getting all the help you need to remember whatever it is you came to get. So all we can say is you're safe. You're absolutely safe. And sometimes that's a mantra you have to say to yourself. I am absolutely safe. I choose to believe that. I may not always feel it, but I choose to believe it, because love wouldn't do that to itself. Love wouldn't scare itself into being good. That's not how love would operate. So anyway. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mildred. So we may have time for one more question. Does anybody feel called to ask a question about personal, someone else? Mary Elizabeth, go ahead.
So I don't actually have a question at all, but Kitty's my dear friend, and I've gone to her multiple times over the course of my life, and she's helped me tremendously. And I'm sure you can all see how she just speaks from her heart. She's just a wonderful, graceful woman. So I would encourage anybody who wants to reach out to her privately too. She's just a delight. Always been very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Elizabeth.
Thanks for coming.
Right back at you. Yeah, we can't hear it.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, it went, yeah.
When you guys are talking. Looking at the chat, and June said she had to leave. She said, please thank Kitty and all the gals. It was very helpful. I feel very emotional. I think for June, that's her just saying thank you. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, Joe knows June, so she's concurring, definitely. So she's saying thank you. And so I just wanted to ask, so Kitty, the best way, we mentioned Facebook, so go to Kitty Kelly on Facebook if you're on Facebook. If people want to contact you directly, is phone number best, or how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, phone number is best. They can use email too, but you know, my phone, that's the house phone. It has an answering machine, and I'll always get back to people. Yeah.
And what is that phone number?
631-472-2738.
Just put that in the chat. And what is your email?
kittykelly@optonline.net.
Okay, so I just put it in the chat box. So it's 631-472-2739 or
No,
Kitty Kelly.
No, you have it right. You have it right. It's good.
kittykelly@optonline.net. So if you want to get in touch with Kitty, reach out to her there. And for those of you who are watching the video on YouTube, we're also going to share that at the end of the video if you didn't catch that. Does anybody have any, Margaret, did you put your hand up? Did you have another question? No. Anybody else have any more questions before we wrap up? There's time. Feel free. Okay. Any last words from Emmanuel, or any last things you'd like to wrap up with us, Kelly? Kitty? Why do I keep calling you Kelly? Kelly, musical.
Yeah. Oh, just to own your own magnificence and not to compare it to anybody else. It's like one angel comparing its brightness to another. You know, it makes no sense, Emmanuel, from where we are, because we see you in your shining. All of you are as we are. There is nothing else. There is nothing else. So own your own divinity, and then take your sweet humanity by the hand and guide it gently with respect, because it takes enormous courage to walk this muddy walk that we're walking, that we chose to do. So it's a sacred business. It's a holy business, your life. You're making your Italian food, and you're doing whatever with your kids, and you're pursuing your own growth. All of it is holy business, and let joy be the tone of the day. That's all we feel when we see you. Oh, by the way, I just realized I do say we when I'm in session, because that's what it feels like to me. I feel like that's more accurate. It's my kitty self, it's my higher self, it's Emmanuel Jesus. It's like, I feel the oneness, when I'm working with somebody, and when I'm just voicing for that of which I am a part. I'm not a hollow reed that just steps aside. That would suck. It's like, no, I get to experience it all. So I'm not being nice when I'm being loving to somebody. It's like I'm feeling the loving as I'm giving it. So it's such a win-win. But anyway, own your own magnificence, and you shine. You just shine. So own it. Amen. That's it.
Amen. Thank you so much, Kitty. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Such an enlivening way to spend our time.
Yeah.
And thank you for those of you who are watching from the video. This has been another episode of Share Your Spark with Kitty Kelly. And thanks for tuning. We'll see you next time.